Alan Fairchild was not your typical CEO. While many in his position donned tailored suits and flaunted their wealth, he preferred to blend into the crowd, observing people in their everyday lives. His journey to success was built on a foundation of empathy and a keen sense of the needs of ordinary individuals. Yet, as he scrolled through countless customer complaints on the bank's website, a troubling pattern began to emerge. Low-income customers often recounted experiences filled with disdain and humiliation, revealing a culture within his bank that he had never intended to foster. Alan found himself troubled by the stark contrast between the bank's mission statement, which emphasized community support, and the reality faced by many of its customers. It was clear to him that if he wanted to understand the heart of the issue, he had to see it for himself. He contemplated various strategies, calling meetings, sending memos, or even conducting surveys. But none of these options felt sufficient. He needed to experience the reality of his customers' lives firsthand. And so, he crafted a daring plan. The following morning, he raided his attic, searching for worn clothes from his college days. He fashioned an outfit that would allow him to blend in with the homeless community. With a mixture of anxiety and determination, he set off for the nearest Towering Heights Bank branch. As he approached the towering glass structure, Alan's heart raced. The polished metal and pristine lobby felt worlds away from the life he was about to embody. Upon entering, he was immediately met with the skeptical gaze of a security guard. "May I help you?" the guard asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. Alan summoned a timid smile and replied, "I'd like to open an account." He fished out a crumpled $20 bill, feeling the weight of judgment in the guard's eyes. "Right, you can go over there," the guard pointed dismissively toward a far service counter. Alan shuffled across the marble floor, feeling the stares of well-dressed customers who lounged comfortably in plush chairs, oblivious to his presence. At the counter, a young teller named Serena greeted him with a hesitant smile, her eyes scanning his disheveled appearance. "Hi there, how can I help you?" she asked, trying to maintain a friendly demeanor despite her uncertainty. Alan repeated his request to open a checking account, placing his single $20 bill on the counter. The moment he confessed to being out of work, Serena's expression shifted, revealing her discomfort. "Do you have a photo ID?" she asked, peering at him warily. Alan handed over a dilapidated driver's license from years past, which bore an address from a modest apartment in another city. Before Serena could respond, a tall man in a crisp suit appeared. "What's going on?" he barked, his eyes narrowing at Alan. Serena explained the situation, but the manager, Douglas, barely concealed his disdain. "We have minimum deposit requirements," he snapped, raising his voice for everyone to hear. "Sir, do you even have enough funds? Our basic checking needs at least $100. Alan's heart sank. "I only have $20 now," he admitted, but he added with a hint of desperation, "I can deposit more later." The manager exhaled sharply, dismissing him with a wave of his hand. "That won't work. If you don't have the minimum deposit, there's nothing we can do." He gestured toward the door, signaling Alan to leave. Feeling the heat rise in his cheeks, Alan gathered his belongings, acutely aware of a teenage girl recording the entire interaction on her phone. As he stepped outside into the chilly air, he thought, so this is how they treat someone who's down and out. It was a sobering realization, though not entirely unexpected. He had suspected something like this, but witnessing it firsthand was jarring. Unbeknownst to Alan, the video captured by the teenager would soon go viral, spreading across social media under titles like "Homeless Man Humiliated at Major Bank." Stunned but resolute, Alan decided to visit 2 more branches of Towering Heights Bank to gather evidence. He needed to determine if the problem was isolated or systemic. As he boarded a bus to the next location, he had no idea that the seeds of a viral scandal had already taken root. By the time he reached the second branch, his experience had already ignited a firestorm of outrage online. Once again, Alan donned his disguise and stepped into the bank, determined to uncover the truth. The second branch was smaller and less busy. A young teller with bright orange hair greeted him warmly. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" she asked cheerfully. "I'd like to open a checking account," Alan replied, placing his same $20 bill on the counter. Just as he felt a flicker of hope, a middle-aged man wearing a suit stepped over, his demeanor curt. "May I speak with you for a moment?" he asked the teller. They retreated to a corner of the lobby, speaking in hushed tones. Alan caught snippets of their conversation: minimum deposit, not a charity, and call security. When the teller returned, her cheerful smile had faded. "I'm sorry, but our system can't process such a low starting balance," she said, her eyes downcast. Defeated, Alan stepped away from the counter, feeling the sting of rejection once more. As he left, he noticed another bystander filming him, capturing yet another episode of humiliation. With a heavy heart, he walked a few blocks to clear his mind. His phone vibrated with missed calls from his assistant, Bianca. Seeking privacy, he ducked into a quiet alley to answer. "Alan, where are you? The main office is in chaos." Bianca's voice was frantic. "What do you mean?" he asked, his pulse quickening. "It's all over social media. People are sharing videos of a homeless man getting turned away at 2 of our branches. Public backlash is exploding. TV stations keep calling for statements." Alan closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. "That homeless man is me," he said quietly. Bianca exhaled sharply, her tone serious. "The board is demanding answers. Some executives think the footage was staged by activists targeting our brand." Realizing the magnitude of the situation, Alan felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He was not just an employee, he was the CEO. The board would question his methods, but he also knew they would lay blame at his feet for letting this issue escalate into a public relations disaster. "I'm collecting more evidence today. I'm going to a third branch. I need a complete picture," he said firmly. "Tell the board to remain calm. I'll deal with it." As he hung up, a sense of urgency filled him. He had witnessed 2 branches treat him dismissively, one with hostility and the other with forced politeness. This couldn't be the norm. He boarded another bus, determined to see if the third branch would offer any semblance of compassion. Upon arrival, Alan felt a mix of dread and determination. The architecture was modest, but the sign read, "We care about our community." He hesitated for a moment, reflecting on the irony of that statement before stepping inside. The teller, an older woman with silver-streaked hair, greeted him warmly. "Good morning. How can I help you?" she asked, her eyes kind. "I'd like to open a checking account," Alan repeated, sliding his crumpled $20 bill across the counter. Her smile faltered as she glanced at the money. "We have a minimum deposit of $100, but maybe I can help," she offered, her tone hopeful. Just as Alan felt a glimmer of hope, a tall woman in a crisp suit approached, her eyes narrowing as she fixated on Alan. "What is he doing here?" she demanded, her voice laced with authority. The teller stammered, trying to explain the situation, but the manager cut her off. "There isn't a program for him. If he can't meet the standard deposit requirement, he doesn't qualify," she said coldly. Once again, Alan was dismissed, left to confront the harsh reality of being treated as less than human. As he exited the bank, he felt the familiar sting of humiliation, another bystander recording his rejection. Leaning against a tree in the parking lot, Alan exhaled shakily. It was clear now, Towering Heights Bank had a systemic problem. He pulled out his phone, ready to call Bianca, but before he could dial, he felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Bianca, I'm outside the third branch," he said when she answered. "I just saw a third branch treat me the same way. No help, no compassion. It's definitely not isolated." Her voice was urgent. "You need to come back right now." The board demands a crisis meeting this afternoon. Conflicted, Alan considered his options. Should he continue gathering evidence or confront his fellow executives with what he had? Ultimately, he knew that the truth was undeniable. Towering Heights Bank was failing in its mission to serve those in need. "All right," he said finally. "Tell them I'm on my way." As he boarded the bus back to headquarters, he felt a mix of anger, guilt, and determination. He was the CEO, a man responsible for guiding the bank. The board would question his methods, but he also realized that they needed to face the truth before it was too late. When he arrived at the corporate headquarters, Alan walked through the lobby, his shabby attire drawing judgmental stares. However, the security team recognized him and stepped aside, confusion etched on their faces. He entered the executive elevator, bracing himself for the confrontation that awaited him. Inside the boardroom, murmurs of shock rippled through the room as the directors and high-ranking managers took in his appearance. Alan planted his palms on the table, determined to address the elephant in the room. "I'm sure you've all seen the videos," he began, casting a glance around the table. "The homeless man turned away at 3 of our branches was me. I've been undercover for the past day, testing how our employees treat people on the margins." Disbelief washed over the room as Alan continued. "I witnessed firsthand the failures of our culture. We talk about community values, but in practice, we're turning away those who need our help the most." The tension in the room was palpable. Some executives exchanged uneasy glances, while others wore expressions of shame. The head of public relations piped up, suggesting a standard PR apology to contain the damage. But Alan shook his head. "A standard apology won't fix this. We need real action, new programs, staff retraining, and an end to absurd account requirements that shut out people with limited funds." As he spoke, he could see the board members grappling with the implications of his words. Then, Douglas, the branch manager who had dismissed Alan at the first location, burst into the room, his confusion evident. "What's going on?" he demanded, only to freeze when he recognized Alan. "You treated me like I was worthless," Alan said calmly but firmly. "You didn't even explain policies or try to help." Douglas stammered a defense, but Alan cut him off. "I'm looking for people who show empathy and find solutions within our guidelines. You didn't do that." The gravity of the situation hung in the air as Alan continued to speak about the need for change. "Effective immediately, we're bringing back the zero minimum checking account. We'll launch a dedicated program for customers facing financial hardship, crisis loans, waived fees, flexible IDs for those without addresses. Every employee will undergo empathy and inclusivity training within the next month." As he outlined his plan, he could see some board members beginning to nod in agreement. The tension in the room shifted, and a sense of resolve filled the air. "Let's show everyone we're ready to change," Alan concluded, feeling a swell of hope. As he looked out over the city from the boardroom window, he envisioned a future where the bank truly served all its customers, regardless of their financial status. The crisis had revealed a harsh truth, but it also provided an opportunity for meaningful change. With renewed determination, Alan prepared to lead Towering Heights Bank into a new era of empathy and inclusivity, ensuring that no one would ever feel worthless again.